We're on page 6 of page 1122 of chemistry. On this chart showing all the different elements, they mention here that there is an asterisk next to all of the elements that you need to have memorized for this piece. Now there's a lot more than these on the chart. There are like 109 elements that we know of, all right? Some of these that are in just outline mean they have been discovered to exist in the laboratory, but they're very unstable, so they quickly change. The most common ones are up here at the top, like 1 through 20, I would say for sure. In fact, usually with my students, when I'm teaching chemistry, I require them to memorize the first 20 elements, but I make them memorize the number, the atomic number, not the mass, but the number to go with each one as well, because that's going to become important later in chemistry. However, your pace does not require that, so I'm not going to require it of you. Let's talk about a way to memorize these 28 in a way that hopefully will be easy for you. Now there's not a big trick to this. The idea though is to take a large number, like 28 or 29 is a large number of elements, and break them up into smaller groups. Our brain tends to be able to handle up to 7 things at one time. So I put a group of 6 here, a group of 6 here, a group of 5 here. Now that is a group of 9, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's take these. Some of these you might already know, okay? So chances are, having done physical science, you already know that Al, you know that aluminum is an element, okay? So I'm going to put that one in parentheses. That was probably kind of easy. We have 3 that start with C. So we do need to keep track which is which. If it's by itself, it is the most common element in living things, at least plants and animals and humans, and that is carbon. Okay, so that's an easy one. Ca and Cl and Cu are the other 3 that have a start with C. The second letter then gives us a clue. Calcium, right? Maybe you've, as a kid, were told to take your calcium vitamins in order to make your bones strong, or drink your milk so you get calcium. Calcium is Ca. Cl is a common one, chlorine. We saw that sodium chloride, NaCl, is chlorine. Cu may not be as familiar. That's actually copper. And the word copper doesn't have a U in it, but again, this comes from another language. That one shouldn't be too bad, and hopefully even F for fluorine. Doesn't seem too foreign, okay? So those should be familiar. I believe always on the checkup, the self-test, the pace test, they give you either the element name or the element symbol, and you have to rate the other one, all right? So as long as you could match up the names to these and know that, okay, that one's copper. Let's look at these. He and H, those are the only 2 that start with H. The most common is hydrogen. So in H2O, for instance, that's hydrogen. He is helium. What do you think iodine? I just gave you the answer. I is for iodine. All right, we have N and Ne. Ne is one of the noble gases. It is found in lights that shine brightly at night in different colors on signs. We call those neon signs because they have neon gas in them. So Ne is neon, N is nitrogen, and of course you probably already know that O is oxygen. So look, we probably have mastered 12 out of these elements already. So that's almost half. These are the last 5 that have symbols that we need to have memorized. What do you think Zn is? Zinc. If you take a daily vitamin, probably zinc is listed on there. It is a mineral that our body needs. It actually helps us fight against viruses and diseases and things like that. So zinc. U is uranium, sulfur, and silicon. Sand is made out of silicon. Maybe you've heard of Silicon Valley. It's because they use sand to make computer chips. And the computer industry just really took off in California in what's called Silicon Valley. So Si is silicon, plain old S is sulfur. So again, seeing these pairs where they have the same first letter, if we can distinguish between them, that'll really help. Because these others, O, there's only one that starts with O. So that's obviously oxygen, iodine, fluorine. These three have the same first letter. We know aluminum. I should do a check mark here, all right, rather than putting them in parentheses. All right, those are the easy ones. Now let's talk about the tough ones. We did just talk about iron in the previous lesson. Iron is Fe. These are hard because the letters, the symbol for the element, do not seem to go with the name. They are very different. The best way I can suggest that you learn these is go first, write the list down, then look the list over and see if there's any of them that already look familiar to you. For instance, sodium is Na, and maybe you already know that sodium chloride, NaCl, is table salt. So maybe sodium is already familiar. I'm going to turn this just a tad in case that was cutting it off. I'm not able to look through the camera while I'm recording it, and this is over a tad. All right, let's look at these two, gold and silver. They both start with A. All right. How can we remember that? When people look at gold things, should they go, oh, oh? All right. Come up with silly things like that. How can you come up with something for silver being Ag? I don't know. Potassium, this is a very common element that's used in reactions, so we're going to deal with this a lot as we move through the chemistry course, and you'll get more familiar with it. But a lot of students want to write P for potassium. Oh, I forgot to mention PT is plutonium, I believe. Yep. Platinum, rather. Platinum, not plutonium. Number 78, platinum. All right, that one is not as familiar. You might need to study that one a little bit. Silver, gold, sodium, iron. All right, let's go to these items. Mercury. Mercury is the only element that is a liquid at room temperature, and its abbreviation Hg. That's different. Tin is actually Sn. It's number 50 on your periodic table. Tungsten is W, and antimony, I don't remember using that too much as you work through the chemistry course, but that's one they want us to have memorized. Sb is antimony. All right, now I want you to also look at page 5. And in the margin on page 5, this piece I think was published probably initially around 94, 95. So here on page 5 they say, extra, extra, here's a news flash. Something fresh just happened in the field of science. Of course, 1994 is not too recent anymore, is it? March of 94, the IUPAC awarded the scientists at Berkeley the honor of naming element 106. They chose the name Seaborgium, SG, in honor of the chemist Glenn Seaborg. So most periodic tables, even the ones I have in my office, the ones I use in other chemistry textbooks, element Sg here does not have a name, all right? But for this particular piece, they do put a name there. They call it Seaborgium, and it was named after that man. So I am warning you that that weird one will show up on checkups and self-tests, pace tests, because they highlighted it here in the margin. I would suggest, as you work through this piece, that you do study the things that are in the margins, maybe even copy those into your notebook. Some of those charts and things will be helpful. All right, I think that should be enough to get you through those first several pages. We'll come back and do another video in a bit.